What the BJP should be most worried about. Welcome and Vanakkam. Namaste. आप सबका स्वागत है. If you ask many journalists, opinion makers, political pundits, maybe the camp followers of the BJP, or even members of the India Alliance, they would say that the foremost cause for worry for the BJP should be the emergence of a strong and determined opposition, led by a comparatively young, energetic, and fearless man called Rahul Gandhi. But I beg to differ. I don't think that's the most important challenge or problem or crisis, if you like, that the BJP has to reckon and manage. It is a problem, the fact that there is quite unexpectedly a strong, united, determined opposition backed up by growing popular support nationwide. Is not a small problem, it should not be taken lightly, but surely, at least in my reckoning, that's not the greatest problem or the problem that the BJP should be worried about. Now, let me tell you what is the problem that they need to mind and do something about, or at least understand aright. What they do about it is their choice. I have nothing to say on the matter. But this much I have observed and observed very keenly over a period of 3 months now, and my commitment to truth dictates, compels me to speak it out or to reveal it. I think the symptom or the problem that the BJP should be most worried about is the sense of exhaustion, tiredness, maybe strain is a better word, that Sri Narendra Modi is facing. And from the start of the campaign of 2024 elections, I've been watching with particular keen and growing interest. Rather, I've been intuiting it, I've been sensing it with growing clarity and intensity, the strain that has been burdening the Prime Minister, the star campaigner for the BJP. Now, it is not just a matter of his having had to maintain a punishing schedule of travel and public speaking, which was quite a daunting task. As I said in a previous video, it amazes me no end that he has at his age. He is of my age. We are separated only by a few days. We are born in the same year. When I look at the stamina that he possesses even today to maintain the kind of heroic, if you like, hectic, heroic schedule, especially during the election time, the campaign season, I'm truly astonished. So it is not really this punishing schedule that he has had to maintain for a period of time that induced this strain on him. It would be quite wrong and unhelpful to arrive at a wrong diagnosis. You know that in medicine, if a doctor proceeds on the basis of a wrong diagnosis, the patient will die. So the theme we are dealing with is as serious and as consequential as that. So let's make sure that we don't get at a wrong diagnosis, but that we diagnose the disease aright. In my opinion, and I'd like to hear yours, in my opinion, the strain that Sri Narendra Modi felt during the entire time of his campaign speeches, meetings, etc., was the strain that he borrowed from the audience. You might be surprised that I say so. I can say this without any fear of contradiction because I've been a public speaker myself. I too have addressed many meetings the same day, as many as 5 to 6 meetings per day, though I was never a campaigner for elections. I remember a time when I was a 24/7 social activist. I used to travel from place to place, addressing meetings morning till night, traveling, interacting with people. And by the time the day ended, I would be nearly a corpse, a dead body, a breathing dead body, if you like. So I know the toll it can take. But what I want to emphasize is not so much the quantity of effort that can put a person down or drain his energy. What really drains the energy of a person, a public speaker, or a leader who addresses the masses, is not the number of meetings per day he addresses. It is this feeling of strain in the audience. If the audience is fully with you, then you feel exhilarated. You are in a euphoric state. And even if your physical energies are drained out, you still don't feel it, at least during the while that your speech is on. You don't feel the strain, you don't look strained. If during the course of a speech, a public address, the speaker looks strained, please understand it's a very serious matter. It means that there is a growing disconnect between the speaker and his audience, that the free flow of energy between the audience and the speaker is now running into serious problems. There are energy leaks between the speaker and the audience. In an experience in which the speaker is with the audience and the audience is with the speaker, both borrow and lend their energies to each other. The audience virtually carries the speaker in their palms, supports him, energizes him, encourages him, and literally envelops him in an aura of positivity. But if the audience is not with you, then you have to strain after the audience, and it's a very exhausting thing to do. I'm afraid, unlike the campaign season of 2014, 2019, campaign season 2024 was a particularly strenuous and exhausting period for Sri Narendra Modi. Whether or not he admits this to be the case in public is immaterial. It is a fact. It was so very evident. None except the willfully blind could have overlooked it. Now, why is this important? It's important because this is part of a national trend that is emerging. Now, I don't have to be a roving journalist moving all over the country with a microphone and a camera, etc., interviewing people in the cities, in Mufussil towns, in the villages, in the tribal belt, to realize that there is a reality of a national strain developing between the BJP and the people of India. And the causative factors, the factors that contribute to this are many. That's not my immediate subject, so I will not enter into a detailing or an analysis of those causative factors. I only need to state a fact. This is a fact, and it would be foolish to shut one's eyes to it and live in denial. It doesn't help. Now, the question is, why has this come about? When the very same audiences, the great masses of India, were deliriously with Modi over the last 10 years, 2014, 2019, how come that in 2024 strain is perceptibly and visibly developing between the two. I'm going to offer you an explanation. Please, let's help each other in unpacking this important national phenomenon. It is so very important both for today, tomorrow, and the immediate future. My understanding is as follows. You see, when Sri Narendra Modi came on the scene, he generated a lot of dramatic energy through his sort of grandstanding against the corruption, particularly the corruption embodied in the Congress. He managed to convince the masses of India that the Congress had become a synonym for corruption, and to that extent, the eradication, at least the political defeat of the Congress party, was in their best interest, because their well-being was seriously jeopardized by this cancerous Congress corruption. He managed to convince the masses. And he, of course, reinforced this alienation between the Congress and the masses of India through a variety of other strategies. Again, I will not go into those details for want of time. So, what he succeeded in doing as he launched himself as a national alternative to the Congress was to regroup, reconfigure the energy of the masses, directing those energies away from the Congress and focusing it entirely on him, so that there was an exuberant, enthusiastic, euphoric flow of energy between the masses and their dear and heroic leader, Sri Narendra Damodar Das Modi. And that continued into 2019. But in the meanwhile, something happened. Due to a variety of failures on the frontier of governance, the promised good governance did not come. Achadhan did not come for most people in India. There are evident signs of national disarray. The youth are restless. The sort of economic progress that was proffered didn't come. The conduct of the party, the political strategies resorted to by the Chanakya of India, the Chanakya of BJP, sent very wrong signals, alarming signals, not just to the political parties, but also to the commoners. So much so, the people began to develop a little unease about where they are being led. COVID, of course, played its part. The sudden expose of the inadequacy of all the facilities that apparently were in place but simply weren't there. Our poverty as a nation in taking care of the health needs of the people was very woefully exposed during the COVID times. The economic slump ever since the demonetization, and most of all, please pay attention to this, most of all, the people of India watched in silence but in growing dismay and anxiety the most aggressive, brutally unethical methods used by the BJP to bring down lawfully elected governments by other parties, including the Congress, horse trading of MLAs, which everybody knows involves the changing of hands of large sums of money, and therefore, whether or not it comes to light or not, everybody knows that it is an exercise in rank corruption. The massive use of government investigative agencies against political rivals, and the growing expose of groupism and infighting within the BJP party, so that its claim that it is a party with the difference was seriously dented, and a sense of general drift All these things affected people in addition to bread and butter issues like growing unemployment, the inefficiency with which issues that affect the welfare of the youth of India are handled, NEET being examinations conducted by the National Testing Agency, and the rank corruption and all of that, 17 examination papers being leaked one after the other, like a testing system in an acute state of diarrhea. All of these things together had a very, very devastating effect on the image that was laboriously built up by the propaganda machine of the BJP. This could not but have had a negative impact on the image of Modi. Now, let me explain that a little more. See, when unethical methods and strategies are used to attain your political goals, like in bringing down governments and setting up your government when you're actually the minority, so on and so forth, all these things actually create a picture of anarchy, political, electoral anarchy. And that sense of anarchy gets aggravated when constitutional bodies, like, for example, the Election Commission of India, or investigating agencies like CBI, ED, etc., are seen to be massively misused, as weaponized and misused as bullets against one's enemy, electoral enemies. All these things, this and many more, the virtual fiasco of the Jammu and Kashmir, years after the promise that with the abrogation of Article 370, the state will return to normal. All that has happened is the chopping up of a state and the state still remaining in a state of bloodletting. The massive disarray in a state like Manipur, where a horrendous situation cannot be brought under control after one full year. Can you imagine? And the attempts to create problems in various states, etc., all of them together actually began to create a sense of anarchy in the country. And I'm quite surprised that the think tank of the BJP, which otherwise is extremely alert and very intelligent, very perceptive, paid no heed to this. Maybe they banked too heavily on the charisma of Modi and believed that no matter what happens, no matter what is done under the pretext of governance, ultimately when the time comes for individuals to cast their votes, the Modi magic will win the day. And probably this bred a lot of complacency. The fact of the matter is that people in the country, and I say this sitting in Kerala, even in Kerala, people began to associate the BJP not so much with disciplined politics, principled politics, and a responsible approach to even-handed governance based on justice, equality, liberty, etc., all the four values stated in the preamble to the Constitution. Rather, an apprehension spread throughout the country that something unprecedented which the country will come to grief will happen. This was actually fueled by Sri Narendra Modi's statement that whatever you have seen so far is only the trailer. Far more dramatic things are in the offing, which actually had a spine-chilling effect on millions of people in this country. And particularly because that was followed up by statements by certain members of his camp that this actually meant the complete rehashing of the Constitution of India, which certain sections of the Indian society dread like bubonic plague. So what I'm saying is that a host, an assortment of factors, forces, considerations created a creeping sense of anarchy in the country. All the while, Modi was hailed as the ruler par excellence, the man with an iron fist, whose very word is law, and one look from his eyes, the whole country will settle down. all that went on, but reality went in another direction. So here, what I want to say is this, and this is my sense of history that's now going to speak. That is, a people will put up with this creeping sense of disorder, national anarchy, or drift for a while. But after a while, they begin to grow increasingly uneasy, unhappy about it. Because what is natural to human psyche, human nature, is a craving for order, not disorder. Mob lynching may be hailed in one instance, two instances, 10 instances, but after that, it begins to create a very, very disturbing ripple in the minds of people. That is because order, not disorder, is what is native to the human mind. Now, let me explain what I mean. If you have an independent house and you happen to have a little patch of land, I mean, I live in Kerala where it is possible to afford a little land, therefore I have a small patch of land attached to my house. Now, there I would like to have a garden. I don't like to have a jungle. I don't like my house to be surrounded by a jungle. I would like to have a garden. What's the difference between a jungle and a garden? Order. Now, you look at all that human beings have created, which commands people's trust and sustains people's hope, you'll find that all of them are founded on order, not disorder. Now, a brief spell of disorder people will put up with, they may even feel invigorated by it, but you cannot live in a prolonged spell of disorder. Disorder spells uncertainty. Disorder creates an atmosphere of insecurity. Disorder consigns you to a life punctuated with fear, and therefore, in a context of disorder, normal life gets increasingly eroded or paralyzed. Therefore, people begin to thirst for an alternative. Now, look at the shrewdness, the benign shrewdness or cleverness of Rahul Gandhi. What's he doing? He has understood this aright, and he is presenting himself as Mr. Order and Mr. Good Governance. And what is the essence of this order and good governance that he tries to signal to the country at large? I am with you. I'm not a distant deity that you have to prostrate before and appease. I'm somebody who is next to you. I can handhold you in times of trouble. You can count on me. I'll be with you always. He is with every situation where people are suffering from misrule, anarchy, chaos. While the Prime Minister of the country has not visited Manipur in a whole year, Rahul Gandhi has made 3 visits. And he is in every situation, practically, at least in majority of situations. One man cannot reach out to all situations in a country as big as this, we know that. But to the extent that he can stretch his time and his energies, he tries to be with people wherever they are traumatized. Now, that's the exact opposite of anarchy and misrule. And see how people are beginning to connect to him. Now, what is it that explains his growing popularity in a state like Uttar Pradesh? Of all states, Uttar Pradesh. That's the last thing I expected. It's because people in Uttar Pradesh have begun to sense that beneath the veneer of the strong arm rule of Yogi Adityanath, there is a reality of anarchy, of insufficiency, of the means of life. And again, COVID played a big role in exposing the ugly underbelly of this reality. So there is this growing sense of dissonance, disharmony, disconnect, alienation. it's because of this that the Prime Minister this time around went around addressing election meetings, election rallies, one after the other, more than 200 of them. Each time he spoke, and I was watching him, I was listening to him as often as I could, each time. There was not a single instance where I did not feel the strain that he was feeling. I felt sorry for him. For example, if in 2014, 2019, whenever Modi spoke, the camera time was divided more or less equally between his face and the faces of the crowds, because their excitement had to be also transmitted. This time, the cameras very carefully avoided focusing on the people. All the time it was focused on Narendra Modi's face. And unfortunately, that also proved counterproductive, because insofar as all the time the camera was focused on his face, the growing strain on his face could not be missed. And that also affected his voice. The usual timbre of his voice was missing. The sort of radiant energy of his presentation was conspicuously absent. This must be the foremost concern for the BJP, because if this goes on, if this rot is not arrested, if the sagging spirits are not revived, and if sufficient remedial measures are not put in place, I tell you that this atmosphere of national ebullience, great euphoria, the great charisma attached to Sri Narendra Modi, all these are very brittle things. They will just vanish like a pageantry in the clouds. And there are clear indications that this is happening. Very clear indications this is happening. Now, for example, take the state of Kerala. BJP is very, excited about getting one MP from Kerala for the first time in the electoral history of Kerala. But nobody tells you that the successful BJP candidate in Kerala, a very popular film actor called Suresh Gopi, he did not bank on BJP ideology. He did not say a word about any of the pet BJP priorities or ideological emphases, nothing of the sort. Even the Prime Minister, when he came and spoke in Kerala, he did not work on his hobby horses. He did not ride his hobby horses. It was entirely different. See, Suresh Gopi went out of his way to gain the goodwill of the Christian community, and he also banked on his image as a popular film actor. And he did everything possible to cultivate the various sections of the society within his constituency, where he has been working for the last 10 years. All that paid off. But the typical Hindutva card was nowhere to be seen or heard. Why? Because there is a realization that it is beginning to be counterproductive. Now, this should be the greatest worry for the BJP. I don't think they can any longer count on winning elections simply by mentioning the Modi magic. That those days are over, firmly, finally over. They have to now reconfigure their political future. And I hope they have the wisdom and the sense of realism to do so, because just as the continuation of the Congress party as the principal opposition party is necessary for the health of Indian democracy, so also the healthy, robust continuation of the BJP as a major national party is a must for the health of Indian democracy. A unipolar political culture is extremely harmful, because it only will result in the sinking of democracy into dictatorship, the declining or degeneration of democracy into dictatorship. That's something we don't want. So anyway, so this is something that struck me as very, very important, and I thought I'd share this with you. We need to discuss these things and generate a whole culture of thinking together so that intellectually we don't die before time. We shouldn't become vegetables before we breathe our last. Remain engaged. Fortunately, we are living at a time of great intellectual stimulation. There's not a dull day, at least for me, because the context in which you are living is really live wire. That's why I'm able to really come back to you again and again in very great frequency, or rather short frequencies, with some thought or the other, because my country today stimulates my thinking to such an extent that there's no limit to the number of videos that may be produced every day. Of course, because I have respect for the limitations of your time and your patience, I will not burden you with too many videos. 2 or 3 videos is all I do these days. There was a time when I did 4 to 5. Then some of you said that's too much, and I have respect for your inconvenience. So I'm sort of restraining myself. But I tell you, living in the Indian context of today is in itself a great privilege, because intellectually it is an inexhaustible source of stimulation. Anyway, I'm marking for you a very important contemporary reality. And I'm sure that all of you who travel with me along this pilgrim path of discovering realities without fear or favor will continue to apply your mind to this important aspect of our national life and arrive at your own very significant insights. And I look forward to hearing about all of them from you in the hours ahead. Thank you, and all the very best.